Oh. And welcome back to the Emily Show. My name is Emily.
Yes, it is. And my name is Ethan. Welcome back to episode number 24. We're so excited to be here. Let's take 3 deep breaths, starting with 1 in through your nose. Hold it at the top. Exhale. And just relax with us into this episode. Inhale through your nose. Hold it. Exhale. One more time. Deep breath in. Hold it. And exhale. Today, we're going to talk about, drum roll please. We're going to talk about art.
Art.
Both of us, Emily for a lot longer than I have, and me in the last 18 months have really lived our lives through the lens of art and creativity and what that means for both of us. And I think this episode will be super valuable for us to talk about what we're up to in our individual lives, what we're working on collectively, and how we can also help other aspiring or current artists who are either already doing their thing or are looking to venture into new worlds within the greater art world, and just what the heck art even is. Because I think we as a society have a weird view on art, and art doesn't always get the best rap when it comes to how people think about it. It's not taken as seriously as other things. From an outsider perspective in the industry, I think people really respect art, but it's not necessarily always
the most prioritized.
like an artist doesn't have the same ring as a doctor or a lawyer. And we'll talk about all that stuff. But yeah, so this episode's about art. Welcome to episode 24. And let's get right into it.
Babe, what comes up for you?
I'm supposed to lead this, babe.
I thought that was a great lead.
Go ahead.
That was excellent.
Go ahead. Ask the question.
I want to say,
Emily asks the hardest question sometimes. She'll be like,
what is life?
Yeah. Like, first question she asks. What was your amazing question?
When you hear the word art, what comes up for you? How do you define it? What is your instinct?
I was thinking about that right before this podcast started. And when I think about art, the first thing that comes to me is how art started for me in my life, which is as a little child, painting or drawing something. And the most simple art class as a first grader, kindergartner, third grader, where you're drawing a fish or you're trying to draw people or a landscape.
A fish.
And that to me is the first thing that pops into my mind when it comes to art, because
wow,
for me, it was the first time I was introduced to the concept of art. I believe art, man, we could talk about this topic in so many ways, but as traditionally as possible, I think like to keep it simple, because art is just so
vast.
To keep it simple, to me, when I first think of art, it's childhood, drawing things, painting things. What just popped in my head was like me doing graffiti with my friends. Being in New York, graffiti was a big thing. And we would do it on rocks. We wouldn't necessarily do it on public buildings or anything, but the idea of just putting your stamp on something and finding your angle and your perspective. So that's what I first think of when it comes to art. How about you?
That's so beautiful. I mean, so many things came up for me in your response. Like, I love that your gut just brought you to your child self, which is what art does. And I love how you mentioned like making your mark on things, because I feel like art is such a superior way to leave a legacy or have an impact that has tremendous longevity. But what comes up for me when I think of art, I think of a mirror. Like it is a mirror back at us as humans. We see our reflection in a way that's not meant to be intellectualized per se or like logical for us to easily put into words like why and how, but it's bigger than us and um, we feel it more. We're meant to feel it more than uh, put it into words what we're experiencing. And art is meant to have us reflect on the experience of being human. I think of it as a mirror. I think of it as bigger than us. I recently watched uh, Amy Poehler's podcast, shout out Amy, and she had Rashida Jones, shout out Rashida, on. And Rashida said, music, she said something to the effect that music, if people don't believe in God, that is the closest they feel God is through music because it is a feeling that's really hard to put into words what music does. And that's another thing when it comes to art. There's so many mediums in which art can exist, which is absolutely, that's what makes the world go round. I mean, music. Imagine a world without music. I cannot even imagine. Music is everything. Even without melody, there's music in a subway train sound. Like there's music in sound in general, which is so incredible. Like audio art, there's visual art. I think I always, even since I was young, people who could draw, like my brother has such a natural talent for drawing, and my great aunt, and I always thought,
Shout out Rhoda.
no, this is Aunt Ellie,
Oh.
but that's so sweet. But shout out both great aunts. I love you. Um, always shout out Rhoda no matter what. But I always thought people who could create with their hand, that I feel God. That's also for me personally, I never feel God more than when it comes to being present in or with art. And yeah, I always thought people who are skilled visual artists are like, that's God-given talent. And then it's funny because I've said that to people and people are like, Emily, people who can sing, like that is God-given. And it's so interesting what mediums people align with more, are moved by more. And then even in music, there's so many different types of music that people are moved by more than other genres. And so there's music, there's film. Oh my gosh, film that has had a tremendous impact on society. Like Hollywood, that's so incredible, like putting audio and visual together.
And music.
And music, like, oh my gosh, so many types of art. And I think I'm just word vomiting right now, so forgive me. I'm just very enthused and passionate.
We forgive you.
Thank you. I also feel, I thought about this recently, like people who are more inclined towards art in schools are like, they're known as like the geeks, and art is not as funded by society as like sports and other things. And I just think where there's art, people who are more inclined towards art are more inclined towards feeling, and people who aren't, which perhaps is the majority of people, that's why it's not as revered and prioritized and respected, because people who are inclined towards art are closer to something that other people don't have that relationship with. And maybe it's intimidating, maybe it's scary. So they overcompensate by being like, we're macho, or that's not, it's for wimps, but it's like the opposite. I guess those are my initial thoughts.
Well, thank you for all that. That was great to hear your thoughts just on art in general. And I learned a lot from you just there. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
What was your first introduction to art?
It's so incredible because when you were describing your experience with art as a child, oh my gosh, I had a flashback to me in kindergarten in the classroom and like finger painting. We've got to finger paint.
Yeah.
I haven't finger painted
I have the thing in my room that's...
Oh yeah, he does. But
It's just my hand that I put into paint and then put it on a piece of cardboard.
which is so magical. Like that
Yeah, it
reminds
felt
me
so
of
good.
babies' feet are pressed in ink, and like everyone has a different thumbprint and like hand. Like that's so special on its own, just
Yeah.
paint in hand. But yeah, I would say childhood art, like colors and drawing. And I have such vivid memories of the way I used to draw humans. And I think it's so interesting. I feel like I just had a flashback. We went, where were we? We were in Woodstock, and we went to that little art museum,
Yeah.
and there was student art plastered on the walls, and different, I think we commented on it, the different versions of human that students created. And like I remember for me, I when I was younger, I would draw hands as circles and then little lines like as the fingers, and like the eyes would be, it's just so amazing how
Arm. Go ahead.
how our minds connect to our hands, and each human has a different expression of that, which is so magical.
Yeah. I'm going to just keep asking you questions because I think you have a lot of experience with art, and I think this could give value to people who are listening, who, like I said, are either consciously artists or maybe they don't even know that they're artistic. I feel like my mom, for example, shout out mom, she is artsy. She's creative,
Yes.
but she doesn't necessarily identify herself as an artist. And I think that can actually take away from her abilities to do artistic things because like she goes to a knitting class. That's art.
Yes.
And she dresses interestingly. That's artistic. It's creative. But I don't think she fully takes on that role of an artist. And I wonder, what does it mean to be an artist?
That is such an interesting question and distinction between one who's a creator, a creative versus an artist. I don't know. I don't My instinct is that not everyone's an artist, but everyone is creative. I mean, we're born out of creation. How can we not?
Anyone can make art.
Yeah, anyone can create anything. And I think even just the ability to create, even if it's like a freaking spreadsheet, like an Excel spreadsheet, that is art. And that goes to the question, like, to what extent is art life and life art? We can go into that, but I think an artist, it's really tough because when I think of artist, I can't help but think of the business of being an artist, and like that's your career,
Yeah.
and that's how you identify. That's your occupation. Perhaps you make money from it. Maybe
Yeah, being a
that's an artist,
professional.
but yeah, your mom, I feel like identifies as a teacher first and foremost when she's asked what she does.
Yeah.
But she's a very creative person, which is that's my instinct.
That makes sense. And I wonder if in the post teaching part of her life, she'll allow herself to transition into being just an artist or a creative and tapping into those natural things that come to her that she really enjoys, because I know she enjoys those things.
I'm also kind of wanting to rescind what I said because I know a lot of actors, including myself, like if they're asked, "Are you an actor?" but they haven't booked anything and they're auditioning, it's like they question whether they're an actor. So as an artist, like I don't want to think an artist is based on booking things and on making money, because if you're an artist, you're an artist. So I feel bad that I said that, but at the same time, I forgive myself because a lot of our worth comes from the fruit, whether you're an artist or not. So as much as there is truth to the confidence of saying you're an artist because of booking things and money, like you're still an artist just as much, or even if more so, if you're not doing it for money, if you're not doing it for booking. And it's like, I can imagine someone who is a lawyer, but they're not passionate about that, but they always do art after. And it's like, yeah, I do law, but I'm an artist.
Mm,
So
that's interesting.
I think if you're an artist, you're flexible with the label. I think the label can apply to anyone. I think if you call yourself an artist, I think you're an artist, because even before looking at what you do or how you express yourself creatively, if you call yourself that, I think even calling yourself an artist, regardless of how you express
Yeah.
yourself, is
It's
powerful.
a
And
step.
yeah, truly.
So I just listened to Atomic Habits that we talked about, I think, in the last podcast. And a lot of what they're talking about when it comes to building good habits is instead of creating a goal for yourself, such as I'm going to sell $10,000 worth of art and I'm going to start making art because of that, the book actually says change your identity first. If you are an artist, if that's your identity, well, then an artist makes art and they do other things as well, but their main thing that they're focused on is making art. And by making art consistently, you become an artist. Someone who says they're an artist most likely is making art on a relatively consistent basis, or else it just wouldn't be the first thing that they think of when it comes to their identity. Someone who practices law most of the time is going to say that they're a lawyer, most likely when they're asked, what do you do?
Mm.
So I think the identity comes from, okay, well, what do you actually do on a daily basis, on a weekly basis? Are you putting the time and energy into the art? Doesn't matter if you sell it or not. That's not as important. Of course, we revere these famous artists whose pieces go for millions of dollars, but for most people, it's not the case. Most people don't sell their art for millions of dollars, and they're still, I believe, the same level of artist as the person who's selling on the street for 20, 50, $100.
Mm-hmm.
They're both working on their art, they're working on their craft, they're trying to get better, and they're both artists.
What percentage of art or calling oneself an artist is consistency, do you think?
I wonder if some people just innately feel like they're artists no matter what. For me, because I haven't had that in my life for so long, and it's new at 30 years old, like just starting to really feel what it's like to be an artist. I can't say it unless I'm actually taking the steps and doing it consistently. However, someone like you, it's probably a better question for you to ask, for you to answer, because you've been an artist your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you didn't perform or sing or dance or act or anything for 10 years, would you still be an artist? Deep down, is that your most authentic identity when it comes to the thing that you like to do, or how you see yourself in this world? For me, in 10 years, I can tell you I'm an artist if I've proven it over the last 10 years.
Mm.
But I don't necessarily think I can say it now because I haven't given myself that evidence yet to say I'm an artist. If I come out with songs and I have all these different things I'm doing, that in my mind will say, yeah, I'm an artist. I've done all this stuff. You've done a lot of stuff. So I think it's better that you answer that question.
You know what's crazy? I've been doing musical theater since I was 8 until like uh, senior year of college. And then I've been in one full production uh, since 2018, and it's 2025. I've been doing this, I've been expressing myself creatively through singing, dancing, acting most of my life. But when I think of myself as an artist, I don't think of musical theater, actually. I don't think about the evidence that one would use to call me an artist. I feel like I'm such an artist, and I've always identified with what I feel as an artist since I was young, regardless of that part of my life. When I think of myself as an artist, I I feel so in touch with humans, and I wonder, like, if that tangential relationship is what reflects an artist, is how to what extent one is one with the experience of being human and forgiving and accepting and feeling and like connecting, human connection. I feel in touch with my artist self when I'm simply connecting with another human. So, and
Why does that make you an artist? Feel like an artist?
well, my instinct in answering that question, I reflected on when I first started the episode saying how it's a mirror, art is a mirror. And when I'm in a dialogue with a human, I'm aware. I'm so aware that I'm having a dialogue with a human. I'm aware. And it's like my own awareness is a mirror of the experiencing I'm having. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what makes me feel like an artist. And this is vulnerable, but I feel like my musical theater life has been kind of tainted since graduating because I have a interesting relationship with auditioning, as I'm sure every artist does. But I've never felt more distant from that part of my identity. And that thinking about that almost takes away from myself as an artist. I feel more like an artist and joy and freedom in the thought of being an artist, like outside of that part of my identity, more and more as time has gone on.
Well, at the most basic level, it makes sense that you're feeling that way because you haven't done it in so long. You're, in terms of time, you are very distant from that part of yourself. Now, I know you're auditioning tomorrow for a show, yeah?
Yeah.
And thank you for being vulnerable. And I'm sure this is very relevant to other people who are experiencing similar things, but that's what happens when you don't do something for a long time. It becomes foreign, and I don't necessarily think that's a representation of you not being in tune with that. I just think it's a representation of you haven't done it in a while. You haven't flexed that muscle, so of course it's weak, and it doesn't feel as part of you as when you're in a show and you're doing it week to week and you're living that life. If I didn't work out for 7 years, how distant would I feel from being an athlete and from being someone who takes care of themselves in a physical way? There's just no way I could feel as good about it. Even if I became the most fit person in the world today, and then I just didn't do anything for 7 years, think about how distant I would feel from it. And it wouldn't matter all the amazing things I had done because in this moment, yeah, you feel far from it. So it makes total sense. And I think the only way to really see is to do what you're doing, getting back into it, testing the waters, dipping your feet in, being like, you know what? I'm going to give this another shot and give it a full shot. And if you're not getting that same, or if not even more of a feeling of fulfillment and joy from it, which I do believe you'll have because you're just coming at it from a way more grateful perspective. If you don't feel that, then you never have to do it again. But I think giving it a shot is going to tell you whether or not that's true, because I know what you're saying right now. It's like, oh, I feel distant. I don't know if I want to do it, but it's like, yeah, but you don't know until you do it. And then you can really say, actually, no, I definitely don't like this anymore. Or, oh my God, I miss this so much. I love being back in rehearsals and on stage and truly performing the way I used to. And then on another level, because of your current state of just being more present and aware and grateful for the small things.
Yes. Well, thank you. Yeah, audience, I feel like I've just been in a stalemate with myself for the past few years of like, I don't get joy from the lack of fruit that comes with auditioning, but I don't feel joy not being one with the identity I've had for so long. So Yeah, I think perhaps you're right. It is about just doing it and flexing the muscle again. It's so vulnerable.
Why?
That's a good question. Because I'm most in touch with my child self at the thought of doing it. And my child self was the most hopeful, positive, upbeat, willing to be vulnerable, loving, open girl. And to embody that again, to put myself out there in the way that I did when I was younger, just makes me emotional.
Thank you for sharing that. And it seems you're being that right now. And you are very in touch with that child self in you who's still right here talking to me and being vulnerable and being open and being loving and being free. You have it. And most people, like you said, they don't want to feel that. They've been traumatized. They've been pushed down so many times that they're not willing to face that again. But I think you're at a point.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's sad, but I think you're at a point where you've gained the confidence you need as an adult to be able to deal with opening your heart and knowing that maybe you get on Broadway and the show that you do gets horrible reviews and it's shut down after 1 week.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, you know what? I still did it. I still had fun and I don't care. And you'll have the same amount of joy and gratitude if you get on the show and it becomes the most successful show on Broadway. As long as you're putting the intention that you want behind it and the joy and the open-heartedness and your best effort. I think whatever the results are, you can't control that.
Yes.
And there is nothing to really fear because you're putting your heart and soul into it. You're working towards a goal that you want, not for anyone else. You're doing it for yourself. Of course, you want to impact people and move people with your voice and what you can do, but you're doing it for you. And that's what artists do. That's what art is. It is a way for you to express yourself. And the beauty of it is that by you expressing yourself as authentically and as genuinely as you can, you allow other people to open themselves up and find parts of themselves that they may have lost or that they may remember by seeing what you can do. And that to me is why art is so incredible, is because one human can help another human get in touch with themselves through just the most authentic art to that other person possible. Hundreds of thousands, millions of people can see something and be moved by it. And I think that's beautiful. That's why art is so special. It has a power to transmute time and space and reality and just bring everyone here and present. And that's what we always talk about, right? It's like, how can you be the most here, present, aware? And a song can do that for you. A movie can do that. A piece of art, a drawing, a painting can do that.
Thank you for sharing all that you shared.
My pleasure.
You just made me think. Art is the language of being.
Explain that more.
Being, feeling, this human experience, love, it's all so hard to describe.
Yeah.
And it perhaps can't and shouldn't be described. And that's why we need art as the language of being.
So when you say art is the language of being, it is the language we use to describe what being is.
Yes.
Got it.
which makes,
Because a conversation with normal English language does not get the point across to what love is.
yes,
It needs to be sung or wrote about in a poem
danced out.
or drawn
Yes.
or painted. Because saying something doesn't, sometimes it does, right? Good writing is art. That can get the point across about
Poetry.
love. Poetry, or even a book, can really describe, because love is so complex and deep, and to describe it and to be able to make someone feel what it's like to love a partner, or to love a mother, or to love a child, that's almost indescribable. So how can we channel our deepest parts of ourselves to express what that feeling is like and show it to someone else, and then someone else say, yes, I get what you're saying, I know what that feeling is like, and it's this mutual agreement. Yes, that is correct, or that is close to describing, right? We're trying to get close. We'll never actually be able to describe it perfectly, but a good poem is like yes, or a good painting, you just say, it's a feeling.
Yes.
That you can't get from mundane things. Although that could also be artistic, and really that's where art becomes meta, because the most mundane things can also be art. And that's why I said we could talk about this for a whole,
It could be a whole
season.
podcast itself.
But yeah, I love that art is the language of being. It's how we describe this human experience. It's how we communicate when normal communication just does
Isn't
not
enough.
do it.
Yeah.
I love what you say about performing. How say it.
I say, like, when I've been on stage, I'm never more present. I'm never more one with present. I never feel God more and God's presence than when I have to be present with a fellow actor.
And then about like the speaking versus singing versus.
Oh, yeah. I was taught in school.
I love this.
So we had a class called.
Clipping this. Say it perfectly.
So at Tisch, we had a class called Scene into Song, and then we had another class called Scene into Song into Dance, because in the world of musical theater, when words aren't enough, you have to sing it. And then when singing isn't enough to express what you want to get across, you have to break out into dance. It is a stepping, gradual expression,
evolution.
Yeah, of like
communication,
capturing the magnitude of what one feels.
I love that.
Yeah, it's so. When I was first described that, I was like, "Oh, that is so beautiful."
Yeah, it takes what is normal and mundane and basic to us, right? Just speaking, and then it takes it to, oh, okay, that's singing is definitely another level, and then adding the movement element to it and putting it all together. It's like that is the ultimate expression of a human.
Yes,
we are so incredible, but we are limited in a lot of ways. And singing, right, using our voice to this amazing like expression, and then using our bodies to just move around, it's so incredible, and it's stunning. It makes people, it helps people get in touch with their emotions. It moves people. It makes people think. It makes people laugh. It makes people cry, scream.
Yes.
And yeah, I think that's what we're all trying to do, because I think deep down, all we want is for people to understand what we're going through.
Yes.
And if someone else can say, I see what you're going through, and you know that person gets it.
Yeah.
That's when you're like, yes, you understand what I'm trying to say. Like, you get this pain, or at least you're telling me you get this pain, and I can feel that you understand what I'm saying. That is all we want. We all want people to understand. We all want to connect with each other. And the more we can express ourselves clearly, whether it be through our words or our writing or our singing or our dancing or our painting or our drawing.
Just with specificity. It doesn't even have to be clear, as long as like there's intention with what you want to be received. Like the more specific one is. But yeah, that's why movies are so powerful, because you're, like we always say, we're all each other. And when we're seeing a person on screen, like they're a version of us and they're experiencing an emotion that we haven't or have tapped into, and we need to feel again in that moment. And it's so funny. Like for some reason, I'm thinking of Dwight from The Office, which he is such an amazing character. But it's like, I wonder if he's so funny because we see him in ourselves, even if in the slightest way. Like there's a bit of Dwight in all of us, perhaps. And that's why he's so funny, besides him being just hysterical with his body and vocal humor and everything. How much time was that? Okay, it's at 37.
I also want to add that with movies, I think what's so powerful, and this goes with any art form that does this, but storytelling. Our lives are made up of just
It's one big story.
It's one big story, but also hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of little stories within that big story of your life. And a movie tells a good movie or a great movie tells a great story, and one that you can follow and connect with and picture it in your own life, how your life connects with the movie itself, and whether it's about love or I don't know what else are
A
movies.
hero's journey.
Yeah, a hero's journey. I mean, most movies have similar themes. There's only so much you can talk about that connects with the viewer. And yeah, when you watch a good story, you are constantly putting yourself in the protagonist's shoes, or you're imagining how that protagonist or someone in the movie is like you or someone that you know in real life. And it connects the movie story to your story and what you're actually experiencing. And it's such a beautiful way to kind of escape yourself, but also see yourself at the same time.
Yes. Yes. Do you think every breath is a story?
Definitely. Yeah, for sure. I mean, my breathing right now is definitely telling a story about my current state of physical being. I am struggling to be able to breathe fully. My asthma is pretty bad, and that story can connect with the fact that I've had allergies my whole life, and I've had asthma, and I used to go on a nebulizer. I could tell a whole story about what asthma is like, and guess what? There's someone listening who has asthma and allergies and knows exactly what I'm talking about. And if you don't have it, or you know someone who has it, and you know what that person has gone through, and how much you can struggle this season when the pollen comes out and nature just takes its toll. And I take medicine, but it's not curing anything. And hopefully one day there is a cure. I think people actually, Seth this morning, shout out Seth, was telling me about a shot you can take for allergies.
Oh, wow.
Or multiple shots. And he said it really helped someone he knew. I need to look into that because it's
been bad.
I look forward to spring so much because of the warm weather, but then it's also just so brutal with allergies that it's not even that fun for the first month until the pollen sort of calms down. But yeah, for sure. So to answer your question, my breath is definitely telling me a story, and then I can describe that story, and maybe it's telling you a story without even me having to explain all that.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess stories, it's interesting. Stories can have multiple interpretations. People latch on to different things. And I wonder if that creates the definition of a story, is that people take it in different ways, and it's meant to be taken in different ways and embodied and whatnot. But I wanted to ask you, what is your favorite medium of art to witness, and what is your favorite to embody and express?
To witness. I've never really liked museums. So definitely not anything museum related.
That's a funny phrase.
A good concert. A good concert. And I don't go to many, but the experiences I've had at concerts with artists that really move me are indescribable.
Mm,
And there's something, like you said, about music that just transcends everything and takes you to this place that, you know, you listen to a song that you heard when you were in middle school and it immediately takes you back to that moment and you're present with that feeling that you had at that school dance, or a song that you heard in college and it takes you back to those memories. Music can transport you in time and it can make you feel these things that you haven't felt in a while. So yeah, I would say, even though I don't go to many, a concert.
beautiful.
And then to embody,
To express.
to express, what comes most naturally is speaking and sharing just a story or a message, words of affirmation, gratitude. And more recently, doing that in a more poetic, dramatic, funny way, whether that be poetry, rap, hip hop, comedy. So saying those things, giving those messages, but in a more tangible,
Elevated.
creative way,
Yeah.
rather than just, I'm here to speak. Because I never loved like boring presentations. So if me as a viewer doesn't want to see someone just stand up on stage and speak, I need to be what I want to see
Mm,
and make it more just fun and creative.
beautiful.
Yeah. How about you?
I have always said that nothing moves me quicker than dance, right?
I do love to dance too.
Oh my gosh, dancing's okay. Well, witnessing dance, I guess in comparison to dance, singing, acting, like if I just see someone do something with their hand in a magical way, I'll like start to cry. Like dance moves me so much because I guess it's the greatest form of expression and like embodying like feeling, and it's so elevated and strong and specific.
I love that.
So I love seeing dance. Like it brings me a lot of joy and freedom, even just witnessing people completely free in their bodies. And then, but I do love a good movie. And concerts are amazing. Like concerts are amazing. I also love concerts. And then my favorite to embody. Oh, that's tough for me. That is tough. I will
Told you she asks hard questions.
I will say I feel the most joy and free when it comes to dance because I truly feel like there's no right when it comes to the way someone moves with in tandem with music. Like, yes, I guess there's a right when it comes to if you're being choreographed and if there's like a specific dance piece, a specific story that the director wants you to tell, and you have to be able to do certain moves. But when it comes to, it's the most accessible to every human. And that's why I think I also love it the most because it's the most accessible to every human, it's like we all can do it and there should be no judgment. Like, as long as you're able to move your body, that is a gift. And like, if you're
Yeah.
able to for music, like, oh my gosh, freedom. So I feel most free when I'm embodying the medium of dance.
More than singing.
With singing, I'm more critical of myself. So it's hard to feel
Gotcha.
like I'm always thinking about how it could have been better.
In the moment.
Um, No, not as much in the moment, but singing's tough because singing also has to do with uh acting as well. Like there's singing, you can't sing without
Yeah.
being in your body and telling the story also with your body. So dance is just your body. with singing, there's quite a few other variables
I get that.
involved. So I'm more inclined to get more in my head when it comes to the art of singing, as though I do enjoy it. I do experience joy when I'm singing. I do experience joy when I'm acting, when I'm even creating visual art. But in terms of consistent freedom and joy, I feel most moving my body.
I also love to dance, but I feel that way when I'm dancing because I don't think there's a few moves that I feel confident in, but besides those, if you're just like, all right, dance for 5 minutes straight in front of a group, I'm going to be constantly aware of myself dancing in front of a group and not be as free as I would like to be when it comes to that. Whereas speaking, I feel like once I'm in that flow of speaking, I I feel the most free
Yeah.
to
Oh,
just be, and I want that with every medium that I do.
it is.
But I love to dance too.
It is interesting to think what the majority of people feel most vulnerable in dancing or singing or acting. Because I imagine, especially for men, dancing feels like the utmost vulnerable. They're so stiff.
Yeah, especially to be relaxed and
Yeah.
loose. Yeah, there's so many things that make you vulnerable, and there's a reason that they make you vulnerable. And I love that about them. I love the uncomfortable feelings that come with doing things that are out of our normal routines. And I love that we internally can make ourselves feel a certain way by doing things that are unnatural. Until they become natural, then they're comfortable and they become part of us. But in the beginning stages, yeah, so many people shy away from it because internally they know, oh, this is gonna make me feel some way. Like back to my mom again. Mom, I love you. She won't sing. She's like literally too nervous to sing because she knows, oh my god, I'm gonna have to like let this come from my body, let this leave. Like it's so funny that she's self conscious when it comes to that, and I get it. I totally get it.
You know what's crazy? Like, if she thinks she's a bad singer, like there should be no stakes. Because then it's like, I know I'm a bad singer, so I'm gonna do like be free and just
Yeah,
do it.
it's judgment.
Like I almost think like if I were a bad singer, I'd be more free to sing in front of strangers than now
That's so interesting.
when I'm shy. I'm shy to sing.
Let's have this be the final topic because I think this is so relatable for a lot of people, which is for me, the idea of singing to people is I don't even like doing karaoke because I am what's the word? I am it's one of my insecurities. I'm insecure about how I sound when I sing. I know that I don't sound pleasing. And as someone who likes to please and make other people feel good, my singing voice doesn't do that naturally. It's not aesthetically pleasing. So I do not want to do that. I'll do it in front of you. And even that, I'm like, oh, this is like probably not sounding good, which sucks. So I want to work on that. And I'm going to a voice lesson after this. But for you, who can sing really well, from my perspective, I'm like, I would sing all the time. But I can also understand why at your level, because you probably hear people who are maybe better than you, or you think they're better than you, and you're like, oh, well, my voice isn't that good, so no one wants to hear me. But from a person who can't really sing, I'm like, no, everyone wants to hear you. Like everyone wants to hear that voice.
Thank you for saying that. It is crazy how opposite the perspectives are. And it just goes to show that
It's
everything.
actually the same perspective. We're both.
Yeah. I guess yeah. Everything's relative and there are pros and cons to everything. And I think that's why you and I are both inclined towards art, in terms of what you were saying just before, is because there's such a strong relationship between art and vulnerability.
Yeah.
Like there is no art that doesn't come along with vulnerability
Yeah.
in some way.
Good art.
Yeah. Yeah. So not only do we love vulnerability, we really appreciate and respect the discomfort that
Yeah.
comes from vulnerability and the growth and the introspection that comes with it. So it all makes sense.
It does indeed. And to all our listeners and viewers, if art is something that you're working on or you've thought about, test the waters a little bit. Draw a freaking small little thing on a piece of
Draw a
paper.
fish.
There's no stakes.
Just draw a freaking fish.
That's it. Draw a fish. That's all you need to do. Thank you for tuning in to episode number 24 of the M&E Show. I am your co-host, Ethan.
I'm your co-host, Emily.
And we will see you next week. Farewell.